Welcome back to our channel. I want to thank you for joining. First, I apologize for the poor quality audio. Our mic failed us at the time, so we're gonna fix that. I apologize. Thank you all for understanding and your cooperation. As we continue to talk about geopolitics and why African nations must wake up at this time, the geopolitical environment in North America has shifted, and the United States of America continue to lecture the continent of African leaders who still fail to recognize that the environment has shifted drastically and they too must shift. They shouldn't just be following the rules in the way that suits their other geopolitical partner. The United States of America has over and over warned the continent of Africa from the strategic point of view to sit up, but the leaders still failed to recognize where the US is coming from. The United States of America's own leader, Mr. Donald Trump, is a transactional leader. There is no country in the continent of Africa that's free at the moment. If you look at the geostrategic position that the continent of Africa sits at this time, South Africa came under tremendous pressure. The country of Egypt, looking at its own pressure with the United States of America, Lesotho faced incredible backlash with the United States of America, not just with tariff, but saying that nobody knows where this country is. If you look at other countries like Liberia, that has come under incredible embarrassment with the United States of America questioning the leader of the country of Liberia's English. This is a wake-up call. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because one of the darlings of the continent of Africa, of the United States of America, the country of Nigeria, thought that they are indispensable or they are untouchable. But again, the United States of America has reminded the continent of Africa, and Nigeria in particular, that they have no particular friend from the geostrategic perspective. The US is transactional, and it reminded the country of Nigeria that at this moment, regards to travel, the United States went ahead to slash down the duration of stay, the multiple entry, talking about 5 years, and an awful lot of travel issues between the country of Nigeria and the United States of America has come under question. To have more context, let's go to CGTN Africa for more analysis. Let's play this clip.
At the same time, the US Embassy in Nigeria has announced that Nigerians seeking non-immigrant visas to the United States will now only be getting single-entry 3-month permits. Now, that's effectively rolling back the 5-year multiple entry visas they previously were issued with. A Nigerian Foreign Ministry official says Nigeria has no such visa policy towards American citizens. In June, the Trump administration added Nigeria to a list of 36 countries that could face travel restrictions if they failed to address security and diplomatic concerns within 2 months. Nigerians have been reacting to the new visa restrictions.
I think our government should come up with something tangible to tell the U.S. government to at least have a rethink on this bill or on this kind of law they've passed. It's not really too good for we the young Nigerians coming up. We might have something doing abroad, something good doing abroad, and coming back doing just a one-time visa, coming back to the country do another one. Time constraining. It also involves money.
There is a positive advantage of that, because if you observe some of the things that we are supposed to at least maybe invest in our own nation here, most of our people, we do used to fly, go abroad, carry all our wealth, spend it here. With this restriction, it will make our leaders to focus their attention into our land.
And when this happened, I see a number of our own ignorant nationals come up and start basically saying that the United States of America should work out things. No, the US at the moment is sending immigrants or deportees who are not African nationals to the continent of Africa, trying to fold African leaders' hands to accept immigrants or deportees that do not belong to the continent. Experts say this is a violation of immigration policy, but our continent of African leaders and some nationals continue to succumb. Nigeria in particular has its own particular concern. It has Boko Haram issues, it has high unemployment rates, and more importantly, the country also is going through an incredible period. But again, my condolences to the former leader of the country of Nigeria, Mr. Buhari. He's done his own part, he has made his own name and makes significant contribution in one way or the other. Whether you like it or not, he's the leader of the country, and may so rest in peace. Moving forward, Nigerian expert questioned the United States of America's own particular resolve with regards to this particular issue with travel. This is a warning to the country of Nigeria that the United States is not as a safe place in terms of your own investment and, more importantly, for your own travel in a number of areas. We've seen how the US has taken different positions, spoken in different side of its own mouth, because according to South Africa's Dr. Oscar van der Heijden, the United States of America is not a reliable partner and it's not an honest broker. Let's go back to CGTN and play this clip.
Now, the U.S. mission in Nigeria says the reasons for cutting back on most non-immigrant visas to Nigerians have been, in their words, misunderstood by the public. In a statement posted on its account on X, formerly known as Twitter, the embassy clarified that the reduction in visa validity is not due, they say, to Nigeria's position on third country deportees or the adoption of e-visa policies or its ties to organizations like BRICS. The U.S. mission claims that the shortened validity period is part of a broader, ongoing worldwide review of how other countries utilize U.S. visas. Let's dig into a bit of analysis on this. Basil Abia is a policy analyst and a co-founder at Veriv Africa. He's joining us now live on the program. Basil, so let's start with the position, the argument being made here by the Americans. They're speaking to the BBC and later, of course, saying the same thing on Twitter. They say there is no connection between the change in the visa policy and U.S. efforts to convince countries to take in third country deportees. Do you buy that argument?
I do not buy that argument, and I think it's important to note the information available right now. According to BBC, they spoke with the Liberian foreign minister on the back of that conversation on Wednesday with the 5 heads of states of Africa, heads of states of the countries, the select countries in Africa that spoke with Donald Trump. And according to him, no such conversation was made available. But however, if you remember, there are also informed agents who were in that particular, or who are conversant with that particular conversation, and they highlighted that these requests were actually made, and you can collaborate that or corroborate that with what is happening in South Sudan with the current acceptance or receipt of these dangerous individuals from Laos and from Venezuela as well. There's also information from diplomatic sources here in Abuja, full confirmation that these pressures have actually been mounted on the Nigerian authorities over the last week. In spite of that, Yusuf Tugar went, of course, to national television, probably the most watched political conversation in Nigerian national television last night, Politics Today on Channels News, to push back and to elaborate. For most of us who are pundits and analysts, we are always circumspect of information that comes from Asurok, the staff, of course, of the Nigerian federal government. But when you speak with folks who are, conversant with the information, diplomatic sources being available, and then look at the patterns in the last 2 or 3 weeks with the African countries who have been in negotiation with Washington, D.C., I think it's very important to highlight that you should not buy the argument from the Americans. Rather, stick with the diplomatic sources in-house, because they're more accurate. They know exactly what's happening. And they're trained diplomats. They're not going to tell you or wind you in with propaganda words compared to what you're going to get, for instance, from foreign ministers, like we saw with the Liberian foreign minister. So I do not buy the argument, and there's enough evidence available for all to see.
Africa, you got to wake up and select your partners carefully, irrespective of where the partner is going to come from. If they have to provide you the opportunity, the know-how, the collaboration, the technology, the systems that you need to build your own particular capacity, that's where you have to go. Whether it is the Russian or the Chinese or even some fringe powers in the European Union, and more importantly, looking at Turkey and Indian and some other partners, but again, including the Middle East, but it has to be on a win-win scale, because the particular geopolitical environment at the moment is not favorable to the continent of Africa. The African Growth and Opportunity Act is done. It is about time that African countries continue to revive, like I've said over and over, revive the African continental free trade area, because the geostrategic environment and geoeconomic position of the continent of Africa must move. Let's play this clip.
Indeed, and just to provide our viewers with a bit of context on exactly what we're talking about with respect to South Sudan, 8 individuals were eventually deported to the country last month. There was a bit of a legal battle that were held briefly at a military base, Camp Lemonie, I believe, in Djibouti. Only one of those migrants, however, was from South Sudan. The others are from Mexico, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos and Myanmar, all countries that are thousands of miles away from South Sudan. The Foreign Affairs Minister, Yusuf Tugai, also said that Nigeria and the United States are still negotiating a trade deal. But what is Nigeria looking for in any kind of agreement with the White House in this $10 billion relationship?
Yeah, actually, it's actually a $13 billion bilateral trade relationship. The data from Federal Ministry of Trade last year said for 2024, trade volume increased to over $13 billion US. But we're looking at strengthening a few things. Obviously, there's also some private sector lobbying involved in that negotiations. As you know, the richest Nigerian in the world and biggest industrialist, Aliko Dangote, has commenced the exports of jet fuel to the American energy market, at least over 2 million barrels thus far, so far. So he's going to look out to lobby the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Ministry to continue to see how they can maximize that relationship by ensuring that the 14% tariff doesn't doesn't happen anymore. We're also looking at, from the perspective of the Foreign Affairs Ministry as well as the Trade Ministry for Nigeria, that the AGOA Act is extended to at least 2031 or 2037, whichever they want to. But I think the 2037 would be a better time frame for that. And that's because if you look at the numbers, again, these are publicly available numbers, the worth of trade volume between Nigeria and the US on the AGOA trade agreement, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act agreement, is over $3.8 billion US as of December 2024. So that's a significant component of our $13 billion bilateral trade. Why would we want that to end? Especially for our supply chain bolstering, for our domestic SME producers, our farm producers, our farm processors, our agro processors as well. We're going to lose lots of jobs and a significant end of that AGOA Act with the additional tariff, the 14% tariff that Trump is purporting for Nigeria, as well as the additional brick penalty tariff, combined 24%, means that we're going to get hit of losses of over 300 to 400 million US dollars, according to projections that have been made by Nigerian analysts over here, including myself. I think that's the number that we'll be losing yearly. And then again, significant losses on our $3.8 billion deal on the AGOA trade agreement. So the two things, again, like I mentioned, would be to see that we continue to double down on our refined fuel exports to the US markets, because it yields to the political messaging from President Trump, which is to make sure that energy is cheap. And that's why he's big on the drill, baby, drill mantra. Now, in addition to that, also maximize and ensure that there are negotiations for the AGOA Act to be extended. I think there's a chance in that regard, because, again, the Africa, like I mentioned on this platform months ago on CGTN, I mentioned that the Africa advisor to President Trump is actually an African. He has a Nigerian citizenship. His built a big business called the SOA. It's a supply chain and machinery and vehicle import company based in Lagos. He moved there immediately after he finished his graduate school in the United States of America. Right. Has family that are Nigerian citizens. So there's a chance for negotiations, especially if you understand how Trump wants a more deals-based type of negotiations for his foreign policy. So with that, it makes sense for Nigeria to get at least the AGOA Act extended.
Well, we'll see how that plays out once September is here. Basil Labi, a policy analyst with
Let me know in the comment section what you think regards to this particular move by the country of the United States of America towards Nigeria, and why Nigeria should not feel so cozy, and Nigeria should wake up and not only rely on the United States of America. It needs to prove. Nigeria hasn't proven that it is the giant of Africa, so-called. However, Nigeria still have the chance to sit up and join partners like BRIC organizations and look for other strategic relationships that it can continue to leverage on the capacity and the advantages that it had. Nigeria is too inward, it's thinking so much about itself. This is not the moment. The country of Nigeria must wake up and not rely on the United States of America. Nigeria has huge weight on its own body, internal issues, strategic problems, more importantly, economic fundamentals are not looking solid. So for the country of Nigeria to grumble and feel depressed because the United States of America has made some decisions regards to visa travel, I think it's laughable. This is the moment that Nigeria has to step up and show leadership and engage the countries across the region despite its failures regards to leading ECOWAS during the Niger and France's debacle. At this moment, Africa, you got to wake up and start picking your acts together, because at this moment, it is a time when history will remember that at this time, African nations gathered, came together, spoke at the United Nations, reminded strategic partners like the United States of America that it won't be business as usual, as France is losing its focus across the continent of Africa and winding down its influence. At this moment, the continent wants geostrategic partners that can work with them on an equal footing and on a win-win basis. Make no mistake, African nations haven't said, we're not going to work with you, but we want to work as equals. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.